And it looks like we're live now. Alrighty then. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the live chat. Make sure that everything is up and running as expected. Looks like it is on YouTube. And on X, everything looks like it's working out pretty well. Okay, good. It's been about 14 days since the last time we spoke. And boy, are we coming back to a very impressive setup for this evening. We have been dealing with a tropical weather pattern, an oppressive weather pattern. When you're dealing with temperatures really haven't been that bad. You had a couple of days where you're pushing into the mid to upper 90s, but the primary impact has been this humidity. And that humidity is basically coming right from the tropics. And it has been an issue for several weeks. It has pushed our heat index over 100 degrees. And now it's coming to an end. Somewhat. We're going to be falling back to near normal. But in order to get to that, unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with some thunderstorms. And that is what we're dealing with tonight. As we take a look at our radar, let's animate this here. This is our weather tap radar. And you could see a very impressive line. Now, you had a couple of thunderstorms out ahead of this primary line that produced some very impressive strong wind gusts. Some hail, very impressive heavy downpours and frequent lightning. This is the next line. And then we have the line with the cold front that isn't as impressive, but still has the potential to pick up some strong thunderstorms. Over the past couple of hours, we're kind of losing the support for severe thunderstorm warnings. Haven't seen much of any. So why is that the case? We'll talk about that in a moment. But one thing is for sure, this is producing some very, very heavy rainfall. Let's take a look and see what the lightning looks like here. And yeah, that's some impressive lightning here. So we have frequent, vivid lightning, all lining up and down this line, all marching through the Delaware River Valley, and likely reaching our neck of the woods here in central New Jersey, which is a thing, by the way. By the end of our live chat, let's say around 8:45, 9 o'clock, we'll probably start hearing some rumbling of thunder and some heavier rainfall. This line is packing some pretty strong winds as well. Look, it may not be severe level right now, keyword right now, but there's certainly some strong wind gusts over 40 miles per hour. And with that, you can still get plenty of power outages, plenty of damage to your house or to your car. So use some caution if you're driving or if you're going to be driving in the next 30 minutes or so. You should stay home, watch the chat, talk about the weather. I would not be driving in this. I can tell you that right now. This is going to be an impressive line that moves through. And I would not be surprised if we see some severe warnings coming out of this once again as it crosses over the Delaware River. When we take a look at the latest water vapor satellite picture, you can see the trough here. Now, this is called a positively tilted trough. You can also see that very nicely here in the upper level winds here. What does that mean? Well, the orientation, if we go back to here, orientation of the trough is essentially aligned with the surface cold front, which means that the surface cold front moves very slowly. So as a result, you can get these waves of showers and thunderstorms. This doesn't mean waves of severe thunderstorms, just means good potential of finally seeing some rain. I know some people need quite a bit of rain. We haven't seen some in quite some time for some locations. I know certainly my lawn and backyard certainly could use some more rainfall. So this is going to set up the potential for waves of showers and thunderstorms through this evening into tomorrow morning as this cold front slowly pushes through. But this trough and this orientation of the trough is an important signal. It's a signal that we're slightly adjusting the 500 millibar weather pattern and displacing the Western Atlantic Ridge a little bit further to the east. And that displacement further to the east means that you're going to start to cut off some of the tropical transport that we've been seeing of this air mass coming in from the Caribbean right into our neck of the woods. Instead, what you're going to see is that transport more focused out here over the Western Atlantic, and we're seeing more of a westerly wind more often. This doesn't mean we won't see hot conditions. It just means that, well, the dew point won't be 78. Okay, so instead of 78, maybe it's 68. And that makes all the difference when you're talking about your heat index. So that is essentially why we're seeing this cold front. And you can see in terms of our observations, plenty, not only the temperatures are, they're muggy, they're high in there, upper 80s here at 8 o'clock at night. It's pretty warm. But the key thing here is the dew points. Look at the dew points. It's 76, 72. That's impressive. Okay. And when you have those type of dew points set up, it just feels like a heavy blanket on you. You really can't really recover from that. It's hard to deal with. So when we're dealing with this type of muggy conditions, we also know that there's a lot of moisture. And that brings us to the precipitable water value. And this is what's going to be key. This precipitable water value, when you talk about precipitable water value over 2 inches, this is really tropical air. This is really moisture-loaded air. And because of that, you have the potential for very strong downburst wind gusts. Now, this feature here is a measure of the lowest 400 millibars. So let's say from the surface up to, let's say, about 600 millibars in the atmosphere. What does that look like on the SKU-T? Well, that looks like about from here to here. Okay? So there's more moisture, deep moisture here at the lowest levels than you have at the mid levels here. You have a little bit more drier air. A couple of things I'm noticing here with the latest SKU-T, which I'm getting from Tropical Tidbits via the HRR data. First of all, we have a slight inversion here. The atmosphere is so warm at 850 and 925 millibars that the surface here, because we're in the evening and we're cooling off, is cooler. And so as a result, that's why these thunderstorms, although they're loaded with moisture and capable of very heavy rainfall, they're not reaching that severe level as frequently. And right now, not at all, because you have this inversion. And what does that look like? Well, let's take a look at CAPE values, or we could do lifted index. This might be even better. So lifted index, when you're in -3, -5, -6, that's very unstable. Okay, this is a great signal. Hey, look, there's a lot of temperature difference from 500 millibars to the surface. So it's colder aloft, and so you have a great potential for instability. But you see the shade here that should be in light blue and dark blue? That's your cap. And so what's happening here is that as we move into the evening, this cap has been growing at the lowest levels of the atmosphere. Again, it's not very deep. It's only roughly 20 to 100 joules per kilogram, which isn't a lot, but it is enough to cause these thunderstorms to weaken as they push east. Now, that doesn't mean that they'll stop producing heavy rainfall. In fact, let's refresh this real fast. I expect them to produce very heavy rainfall. What I expect them to do is become a little bit more elevated. So I think the threat here basically transitions to frequent vivid lightning, very heavy rainfall, potential for flash flooding, downburst wind gusts, easily over 40 miles per hour, and the severe threat looks like it's more focused on the potential from downburst wind gusts pushing over that 55 mile per hour level. There was a threat for tornadoes, and in fact, we saw a couple of tornadoes warnings. Where did we see them? Up here in northeastern Pennsylvania, we had a few. We had the potential down here in southeastern Pennsylvania, but that's pretty much done at this point. Not seeing a lot of support for that right now, and one of the signals we'd look for that support right here is if we saw the winds down here turn a little bit more southeast in towards the urban heat island, and that would allow you to have a little bit more circulation, small scale. We're talking about from the surface to about 900 millibars rotation in the atmosphere that could spawn an F0 tornado. that pretty much is done right now. And so your primary threat, like I said, is that heavy rainfall, downburst wind gusts, so on and so forth, with this line. After this line moves through, this secondary line and these individual thunderstorms will follow, keeping a rather stormy night for many locations. But I think that your severe threat is starting to subside because of this feature right here. And this is the thing with convective precipitation. Small details makes a huge difference in the forecast. If this line was moving through 2 hours earlier, we would be talking about widespread severe thunderstorms and significant downburst wind gust events and possibly even more tornado warnings. But because it's moving through in the later evening, we're setting up a more stable air mass, and so we're seeing the reduction of that threat. And of course, we'll get to all your questions here on the live chat. I'm already seeing some great questions here on the premium side, and of course, we'll hit all of YouTube, and of course, my wife will check out X and Facebook and see what else we have going on out there. So definitely, we will be checking that out. So what else would I be looking for? If, let's say that this was happening 2 hours earlier, what are some other tools we can use? I always like to use this as a learning experience. And so what I like to do is show you one of the ways we use the spc.noaa.gov website. And again, this is under the SPC mesoscale analysis. So it's pretty easy to find, and it's a great tool to use because you can, even if you don't have the greatest understanding of convective weather, it's a great tool to learn. So if you have someone you know who is young, is interested in meteorology, hasn't taken any college courses yet, but let's say they're a high school student, this is a great website. I would have killed for a website like this when I was a teenager, because you can go to these different observations and little questions. You can actually pull up the equations, where the equations come from, what they mean, the research behind them. So this is outstanding source of information. So if you're interested to see whether or not this is a significant hail threat, as you can see, not really all that impressive. We could have to watch something kind of sneaking up here around central and southern New Jersey. Now, what is that based off of? Well, you go to this question mark and you can see it right here. I mean, this is just amazing information. So I always like to educate and say, hey, look, it's great that you follow me. I love that. But for some of you who are young meteorologists, just getting out there in high school, this is an opportunity for you to learn on your own time, go through this data, read all this, and you're going to be ahead of the game in college. It's like basically taking Met 101 and Met 102 before you even get to college. So it's a great opportunity, and you can look at all this data and kind of learn everything whenever you see these question marks. So when I pull up the surface-based lifted index, let's go over here and read what that is. Okay. So surface-based lifted index and convective inhibition is lifted index at 500 millibars based on the surface parcel. That's that little piece of the atmosphere. Okay, when you talk about pieces of the atmosphere, they call them parcels. So get used to that type of terminology. And convective inhibition for the same parcel. These fields are meant to identify areas of surface-based CAPE and minimal convection inhibition, which suggests some threat for surface-based thunderstorms. And so this is based off of the convective inhibition is based off of joules per kilogram. Okay, so that's the energy in the atmosphere. And then the surface-based lifted index, that's in Celsius. That's the difference in temperatures from 500 millibars to the surface. Obviously, the colder it is at 500 millibars compared to the surface, the higher the lifting index, the better potential for instability in the atmosphere, because that parcel is warmer and continues to rise in the atmosphere. So I just wanted to share that because, we could talk about severe thunderstorms all night. I'm sure we will. We'll get tons of questions on it. But this is a great opportunity for you to learn and find a source to learn more about what we're studying and where we look at this data. And it's all free. How much better is that? It's free. So go out there and definitely check that out. It's a lot of fun, and I hope you get the ability to really enjoy that. Let's see what else we got here. So we talked about the water vapor. So once this moves through by about tomorrow afternoon, you're going to notice a couple of changes. First of all, 850 millibar winds. Remember what I said when we started? The 850 millibar winds were along the coast. They're transporting all this deep moisture in from the tropics. Now, 24 hours later, those winds are displaced to the east. And we have a westerly wind, and that means a reduction in humidity. Not so much temperatures. We're not going to see a huge drop in 850 millibar temperatures. We're going from 20 degrees Celsius to 17 degrees Celsius for most of the region. The Poconos dropping around 15 degrees Celsius. Where does that put us? Basically where we should be, average. Okay, we're talking about lower to mid 80s over the higher elevations, mid to upper 80s along the coast and in the Delaware River Valley. What you would expect for this time of year, basically. As we move forward, notice that southwesterly wind doesn't really get established all that much until about 10 days from now. And even then, it's not as robust. So basically, we're breaking the pattern where you get this constant transport coming in from the Caribbean Sea into the northern mid-Atlantic. We have enough of a transport to have periods of humid conditions, and we know that based on the precipitable water values being able to spike up again, but it's not sustained. Your cold fronts are able to move through just enough to transport a slightly drier atmosphere in this upcoming weather pattern. So this weather pattern definitely supports active weather. We're going to get a nice little break, dry conditions starting tomorrow evening into the weekend, but the pattern overall, 10 to 15 days, is going to feature several cold fronts, shower and thunderstorm threats, more rainfall, averaging near to slightly above normal, unless we get like a real tropical influence involved here over the next 15 days, which is not expected because the tropics are expected to remain pretty quiet. But I'm not seeing that type of sustained heat where it's 95 and the heat index is 110. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing more of 88, 86, and the heat index is 94 because of the humidity. But it's not every day. It's broken up. So here comes our thunderstorms moving through for tonight. I think the primary threat here is going to be the very heavy rainfall and the frequent lightning. Beyond that point, I talked about this in the long-range thoughts, so I wanted to bring it up here. I am going to be keeping an eye on the NAO, okay, when we go into a negative phase. First of all, we're in a westerly QBO, okay? So what does that mean? That means that the stratospheric and upper-level winds are all moving in the same direction. And so this enhances the polar jet stream, the subtropical jet stream, makes them a tad faster. We're not like talking about going 100 miles per hour faster, but just enough, okay? And so everything's moving in the same direction. And so as a result, high latitude blocking is harder to become established. This is going to be a real pain in the neck when we get into the fall and winter months, but we'll hold off on that discussion. Why is it important to us in the summer? Well, in August, I'm expecting an increase in tropical activity. And one of the things I'm a bit concerned about is some of these signals of a negative NAO. Okay? Why am I concerned about it? Well, for one, they're fleeting. They come in, they go out. So this allows for brief enhancement of the Western Atlantic Ridge and also a trough dynamic on the East Coast. Tropical systems, aplenty, troughs on the East Coast, block around the Canadian Maritimes. Yeah, I don't like that combination. We could take that combination and get rid of it. But unfortunately, it keeps on showing up and showing up more and more in the long-range guidance. So it is something that we really need to watch and monitor. When we take a look at the 500 millibar pattern going forward, 10 days out, again, notice, again, we'll start off this morning, Western Atlantic Ridge, trying to build in. Here comes our trough approaching. As we move 10 days out, notice the position of the trough is just a little bit slightly further east. And so it allows your cold fronts to move through a little bit more. You get more relief, but you also start entering this period where, hey, if any type of weakness or tropical low pressure system gets in this area or this area, it's going to have a capability of running up the coast. And I'm concerned about that because of the signals that we're seeing. And where I'm looking at the longer range guidance out 15 days, again, we're not looking at verbatim anything, and there is no immediate threat. What I'm saying is that I don't like this signal. And so you should be prepared, not concerned, not like, oh my God, we're all going to get hit or anything like that. But I always say, I've been saying, prepare when everyone else is just relaxing. Okay? Have that bottle of water, have those batteries, so on and so forth. Because if you prepare now when no one else is, when everyone else is losing their head, you could just be relaxing, right? You're prepared, you're good. Everything's going to be fine. And it will be fine. 99% of the time, probably most of these tropical systems will remain out over the Atlantic, and the cold fronts will kick this out like Pele. Okay? So it's not that big of a deal. But again, it would be irresponsible for me not to warn you that, hey, look, this signal keeps on showing up. Let's prepare accordingly. This guidance goes all the way out through August, and I see this trough out here, nice Western Atlantic Ridge. We'll have to keep an eye out. Okay? So especially anything around the Bahamas. If it cuts through the Caribbean and heads towards the Gulf of Mexico, not really a threat for us, but definitely if you have any friends and family on the Gulf Coast, that is a big problem. But anything that gets around the Bahamas, we really need to watch and be careful of based on that signal we're seeing in our weather pattern. So that is, I'll leave up the radar in case anything else pops up and I can answer questions on that. And let me refresh this. In the meantime, let me go and see what we have for questions for tonight. Let's see here. So we start off with Autobahn 106. Impressive heat-busting line of storms just moved through I probably am saying this wrong. Macunjean, Pennsylvania. Heading your way, Steve. Yeah, it looks like it. It's certainly, it kind of has that eerie feel to it outside right now. The trees aren't moving. The bugs are kind of like getting a little like, hey, something's on the way. So it certainly feels like something is definitely on the way, and it certainly looks like it on the radar. How dead is the Atlantic right now? Even the GFS 18Z can't spin up a hurricane. Yes, you could thank the MJO for that. It moved into phase 4-5 and then into a neutral state. So we have a lot of sinking air and a lot of dry air over the Atlantic. That's going to remain through the rest of this month. By August, it starts to shift. We get a little bit more support of more dynamic waves coming off of Africa, and business is likely going to pick up. Now, what's interesting this year, I'm sure you heard all of the, let's just say, excitement about the potential for a blockbuster hurricane season. Bless you.
Thank you.
A blockbuster hurricane season, historic, blah, blah, blah. That was all based on La Nina rocking and rolling and going in moderate and strong. I was always against a strong idea, but I'm like, maybe weak to moderate. Right now it's La Nada. It's nothing. It hasn't even formed yet. Now it's expected to eventually, but right now it has no impact. The SOI is as neutral as you can get. Zero, literally. So right now there is no La Nina impact. Everything's being driven by the negative PDO signal and the nature of the waters in the Atlantic supporting that strong Western Atlantic ridge. And so now with a stronger polar jet stream and your QBO in a westerly phase, now you're starting to see these cold fronts able to blast through that ridge a little bit more. When the dew points were only in the upper 60s, it felt refreshing compared to the mid 70s. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's hard to deal with this type of humidity. And, I came across some people saying, hey, you're hyping this heat. Not really. Look, here's the deal. I'm drinking a lot of water. This is water, by the way. Liquid death, okay? Since people always ask. I drink a lot of water because, especially in this weather pattern, along with making sure my electrolytes are good, this heat can hit you. Even if you are very healthy and you go work out and you walk and you get your steps and all that stuff, guess what? This heat can hit you like a ton of bricks. And if you are not prepared properly, if you are not drinking enough water and hydrating yourself, you can get very sick and put you and other people in a very dangerous situation. So drink your water. Any tropical activity in Western Pacific, anything that might curve towards the Northern Pacific, nothing. It's like the tropics is like a ghost town. And there's a couple of weak storms, but nothing. When it comes to recurving storms in the Pacific, it's not just a recurving storm. They have to be like a Cat 3 or higher. Okay? So if they're not a Cat 3, then the impacts are not really all that impressive. And we are starting to hear some rumbling now out there. Good deal. Getting a little closer. Any chance that urban heat island juices the storms a bit as they head through the New York City metro? I would say if this was happening an hour earlier, probably yes. Right now, I think that it's pulsing. These storms are pulsing as they're moving through. I'm watching them right now, and they're pulsing up and down. So as they interact with the urban heat island effect, they might pulse up just a little bit. I'm not seeing any indication of any type of severe thunderstorm development. I am seeing still a lot of lightning with these thunderstorms, which is typical when you have a lot of moisture. Now, I know that there's a concert going on right now. If I was running a concert, I think it's at Citi Field, and I was looking at this line, and I think it's the Foo Fighters, I think is on tonight or something like that. Look, we already lost plenty of musicians this year, and we don't need to lose more. I do not think that electric guitars and lightning mix very well. So I'd probably, close it down. Yeah, I wouldn't have the crowd. I don't know whether they still had the concert or not, but hopefully not. I don't know. Newark is still 90 degrees. Yeah. Unfortunately, let's see where we're at here. Yeah, Newark is still coming in at 90 degrees. So that's impressive. That is very impressive. That was like 34 minutes ago. So, yeah, that should be interesting to see it interact with that type of heat in the atmosphere. That actually might be enough to create some enhanced instability right in northeastern New Jersey. Well, we're going to find out about the next 15, 20 minutes or so as that line pushes in. The 250 millibar double jet through south of Alaska is rather impressive. Yeah, expect more of that as we head towards the summer, fall, and winter. Let's say we have a weak La Nina with a west-based QBO, that leads to very strong jet streaks. Now, for those of you wondering, hey, does that mean no winter storms, more winter storms? What does that mean? It depends on how all these features interact. So, west QBO normally leads to a stronger polar vortex. So, cold air is more likely to be pulled towards the poles, which would be bad. But it also means that the polar vortex can be displaced, let's say, towards central Canada, which would drive that colder air further south. But it doesn't typically get sustained. You can have very strong jet streaks, which can lead to very dynamic storms, which can lead to temporary high latitude blocking and winter storms, but again, nothing remains sustained. So, could it be more interesting? Well, it certainly could be more dynamic, but I really don't see anything sustained in terms of high latitude blocking in this type of pattern. You mentioned the negative PDO was weakening in one of your discussions, and it's kind of leveled off a little bit. How fast is it weakening, and is it likely to be weak or flip this fall or winter? I don't have any indication that it's going to flip. It's kind of leveled off. It peaked quite a bit about maybe a month, maybe 45 days ago, and it's kind of come back down and not as intense, but it hasn't faded either. I would say it's pretty much going to stay at that level of weak to moderate signal in the atmosphere. What do next Sunday through Tuesday look like in AC area? That's a little bit far out, but it looks right now to be a bit stormy. There looks to be a stationary front hanging around the region. So, variable cloud cover, pesky showers, and thunderstorms. Any data of how strong the westerly QBO will get? Right now, it looks like to be weak to moderate. There hasn't been any increase of any strong signal. So we're talking about +4, +5 right now. Once you go over +10, which I'll be watching for in the fall, then you get into the levels of strong. At +5, you can still support the temporary high latitude blocking regime, but again, it doesn't tend to stick around. Mac-un-G, that's how you pronounce it. Oh, there you go. How much time do you estimate before the storms hit New York City? Let's see here. It's 8:30 right now. I'd say between 8:45 and 9, unless you get like a cell pop up out ahead of it. That looks like a good time period. And let's see what's going on YouTube. Do you think Raritan Township and Hunterdon County will get hit hard? Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. When people say, will it get hit hard? I don't know what you mean by hard. Hard to you is like nothing to someone else and the end of the world to another person. You are in line for some strong storms and very heavy rainfall. Hopefully nothing damaging. We don't want any damage. You just need rain. Honestly, that's all I want is rain. I don't need any severe thunderstorms. Just cruised through 3 inches of rain and still raining outside of Marksboro, Warren County. So that is right about here. 3 inches of rain, impressive. Temperature down to 71 degrees. That must feel so nice. Oh. Montgomery, PA here. Thunderstorm right now. Steve, will these storms have vivid lightning as they did yesterday? Yes, several of them will. Absolutely. Any questions on X or... Oh boy, we have questions on X. Well, let's see what we got. Susan, let's see what we got here. Facebook first.
No, this is Twitter.
Oh, this is Twitter. X. Okay. Where I'm at in Jersey, Carteret, storms are fizzling out. The storms are moving through. We're talking about that stable layer that's around the coast that we were looking at the SKU-T. That's why you're seeing that. That's why more likely this is going to be more heavy rain than anything else. Do you see anything for Monday? I'm seeing chances for heavy rain. I think the models are a bit overdone on the heavy rain potential. I do like the idea of showers and thunderstorms, but I'm not buying the intense heavy rainfall yet. I want to get a little bit more data and see what the actual precipitable water values are going to be. Sometimes when they're this far out, they tend to be a little bit more enhanced. So we'll see exactly how that plays out. See, is it going to rain tonight in Freehold? I sure hope so because I'm here. Yes, I do think it's going to rain in Freehold. Of course, now that means I've jinxed it and it won't rain in Freehold. So, that's just my luck, the way things have been. But the idea here is that, yes, it should rain in Freehold. I will be very annoyed if it does not. we had a third of an inch yesterday, so that's good. So, and we had a little bit. We had a sun shower earlier on, which was a little bit weird. It was like large droplets of rain and sun in the background. So I got a sunburn and I got wet at the same time. Well, lovely.
Burn up and cool down at the same time.
Exactly. We'll cover more on the winter as we move forward. I was just saying that here's the thing with winter forecasts, which summer forecasts are very easy because you pretty much just have the tropical factors to deal with, right? So you take a look at El Nino, La Nina, and maybe what's going on in the Atlantic. Very easy stuff, okay? You only have one or two forcing mechanisms, and they generally follow the same rule. And you got the hardest part is the day-to-day thunderstorm forecast. In the winter, I have about roughly 15 different forcing mechanisms to consider, from stratospheric conditions, the way that the polar vortex organizes, the state of the QBO, which we're talking about, the state of the tropical forcing, sea surface temperatures, the growth of Siberian snowfall, how that's impacting the buildup of ridges and high pressure systems, how is that orienting and setting up in the 850 millibar level in terms of cold air masses. Are there more intense cold air masses than what we expected? And that is just page one. So winter forecasting, and this is why I don't charge for winter forecasting, because it is one of the hardest challenges I have in forecasting. And it's easy, but for some to just say El Nino, La Nina, copy paste, send out the climatology. Oh, hold it. We just got a notice of a severe thunderstorm warning. Let's pull this up. We'll pull over the data here. What do we got here? We got a severe thunderstorm warning for Hudson, Union, Essex, and Richmond County. That's Staten Island for all you other non-New York people who don't know. This is until 9:15 p.m. Severe thunderstorm were located along a line extending from near Morristown to near Millington to Millstone, moving east at 30 miles per hour. The hazards are pretty much what we were talking about earlier. 60 mile per hour wind gusts. This is radar indicated, and there is the potential for damaging trees and power lines. Now, this is interesting because what we were just talking about, the urban heat island effect, right? And the storm pulsing up and the potential for that. We have this little weakness here. Look how it's kind of concaved in. Look at that. And then look at the enhancement. Now this, let's see if we can zoom in a little bit more. Let's see if we can get a little bit more data here on this. Pull up storm tracks. Pause it. Okay. So we don't have any mesolows with this. Hail size up to a half-inch max hail size is possible with this storm. Reactivity about 50, 54. That's not too bad. Max height 21,500 feet. That's pretty high. That's pretty good sell. Let's see here. Do we have any mesoscale lows here in this? No mesoscale lows. That's certainly some good news. So this is a pretty healthy line, and you're pretty much focusing on this line right here, this portion of the line right here, that is producing the severe potential. Urban heat island, juicing it up enough to severe. FYI, it seems like I got lost, and it means I lost power in the severe watch. Severe warn area, that is. Yeah, I mean, this storm looks like it's going to be able to pack some pretty strong wind gusts and some power outages. And I'll tell you what, I'd keep an eye on this cell down here for central New Jersey, Monmouth, Northern Ocean, right around Trenton, down towards northern Burlington County. This looks like it has a nice structure to it. Let's see here. So moving at 16 miles per hour, 2 mesolows. Impressive. 60 dBz, that is impressive as well. Max height, 100,000 feet. That's, wow. Okay. Good thing is there's no TVS. There has been no sign whatsoever, any type of rotation in terms of tornadic development, which is great news. But we are seeing some indications of some of these mesolows. So let me get this line to move. Let's see the animation. Yeah, I'd keep an eye on this one down here, possibly being warned as severe. Of course, we have this line here that's moving into New York City Metro. Very impressive line. Looks like the core of the severe part is moving right along Route 78. I would agree. In Union County from Somerset on east. I would definitely agree with that. Let's see. Do we have any more questions on X? YouTube. What do we got on YouTube? About the winter. I thought weak La Nina would save us. Weak La Nina is certainly better than a strong La Nina. That's absolutely true. There's no doubt about that. Okay, strong La Nina, I would have like the snowplow guys here ready to jump off the bridge. It would be horrible. So a weak La Nina is better. The issue I see, and again, these are just very, very preliminary thoughts, kind of very, very rough sketch, is when you have a west-based QBO, it tends to make the polar vortex strong. And when you have a strong polar vortex, that tends to reduce high latitude blocking and tends to keep polar and Arctic air masses in the Arctic, so to speak. So you could certainly end up with a stormy weather pattern. But the question is then, do you have the cold air? Right? So that's certainly a factor to consider. I think we're going to see a lot of strong jet streaks. If we go neutral, if we just stay neutral, that could also be something that could be positive. That, again, we have to see how all these factors come together and interact. Are these storms severe warned? This storm out here, right here, is the one that's severe warned. That's heading into Newark. All the other storms so far, they haven't been. We just got new data in now. It is definitely heading into our neck of the woods. We're going to definitely be feeling the impacts of this probably after the live chat, after 9 o'clock. But you can see the growth of this line. And let's zoom out for a second. Get a view. We'll take off the storm tracks. We'll leave the lightning so you can get an idea of what the lightning is here. You can see the Delmarva Peninsula is getting whacked with a pretty good line here with some severe cells here. Let's see what that looks like down here. See, down here in the Delmarva, you still got that stable layer. There must be enough lifting there to break that layer, because you're getting some warning signs, some warning of these storms. Then you kind of get this break. Now, you might ask yourself, why am I seeing this break setting up here around Delaware, northern Delaware, and southwest New Jersey? There's getting rain, but why aren't we seeing any strong thunderstorms? The reason why is that if you have a lot of rising air here and a lot of rising air here, you have to have sinking air somewhere. And so your sinking air is taking place right here. That's why we're not seeing a lot of strong storms in southwest New Jersey right now. It looks like your strongest lifting is being focused here, northern and central New Jersey, and then down towards the Delmarva Peninsula, down here, central Delaware, Maryland. That's pretty much where you're seeing this up. And so right now, keyword right now, you are just getting rain, light to moderate rain, marching through portions of southeastern Pennsylvania and southern New Jersey, which is good news too. I mean, they already had a lot of rain a couple of days ago, so we don't want to enhance that any type of flooding there. Further to the west, here comes our cold front. Here comes our second line. This, when it reaches us around midnight or so, it's just going to continue to produce scattered showers. I don't expect any severe thunderstorms out of this right now, based on the nature of the atmosphere, the stability of the atmosphere, and just the overall nature of a positively tilted trough in the atmosphere. It typically leads to waves of showers and thunderstorms, but not necessarily waves of severe thunderstorms. So, especially up in the northern mid-Atlantic. If we were talking about the southern plains, that could be a little bit different. You have different dynamics in play there. But in the northern mid-Atlantic, usually leads to waves of showers. So tomorrow morning, don't be surprised there's a few showers lingering around the region as you are heading off to work. But by tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be clearing out, and you're going to notice a drop in that humidity quite a bit. Let's see. Looks like the core sphere is going. Yeah. Okay. How are we doing with questions everywhere else?
So far we're covered.
All right. So far we're covered. That's what I like to hear. I'm going to drink some water. Lots of lightning coming in to severe storm. Yes. Yep. This one right here. You can see the core in it right there, and it produced flash flood warnings. So you're setting up to have quite a bit of heavy rainfall. And it's weird. You can feel the eeriness outside right now too. It's very, very humid. Hear a little bit of rumble of thunder in the distance. I remember growing up just waiting to see whether or not we get a thunderstorm, and then staying by the window like an idiot while all the lightning was flashing.
Well, we were kids, we didn't know any better.
Yeah, that's true. I'd have my NOAA weather radio with a metal antenna up against a window with the flashing lightning. My mom nearly had a heart attack. Not good. Not smart, Stephen. Not smart at all. Those thunderstorms are about to push into the Newark area. I wouldn't be surprised if the New York airport is going to have to take a break and shut down temporarily with this line coming in. This is not a good sign at all. Notice behind this, we're not really seeing a lot of lightning out of these cells at all. So that's certainly good news. So yeah, the idea here that these thunderstorms are going to be much weaker is certainly playing out pretty nicely. This is going to be our primary line. This is going to be the main story for tonight. If we get any damage, it's going to be via this line here, marching its way through. Yeah, I am just in awe of this. Let me take off the lightning for a second and zoom in here. Yeah, you could see the growth of it too. Very impressive. Over as it's interacting with the urban heat island effect, you could see it growing and taking in some of that heat and instability. And as a result, the line is pulsing and growing right now. Luckily, we're not seeing any turning, nothing of that nature, but certainly an intensification of this line as it moves through the I-95 corridor, moves through between Philadelphia and New York City. If you are in this area, I'm going to circle this area right here, which includes basically just north of Philadelphia, through Trenton, up towards Newark, off towards central Monmouth County, down through Ocean County, or at least northern half of Ocean County, Burlington County. You are in for a stormy evening. That is for sure. So I'll take the last couple of questions if there's any more. Let's see here. Have a feeling the wind and rain, when they come, will be a sudden burst. Most likely, yes, I would agree. Any other questions on Facebook, Rex?
Like someone said, bright flashes just now in Mercer County.
See? There it is. This is going to pack a lot of lightning. A lot. Now, the reason why I could say that is because, as we were talking about the precipitable water values, the higher the precipitable water values, the greater potential of seeing vivid, frequent lightning. And that's essentially what we're seeing here, setting up, getting ready to drive into the coastal plain right here, right into some very busy urban areas. Now, luckily, this is again happening at 8:50 p.m. rather than at 6:50 or 4:50 p.m. Because if it was happening earlier with all the instability, this whole line would most likely be severe, and we'd probably see some turning thunderstorms out of this as well. So, with that, I think I got all the questions, and I think I'm going to shut down a little early to stay ahead of this line because I don't want to be around the windows when this comes through. So, that's it for tonight. Again, thank you as always for following the live chat. I hope I answered all your questions about these thunderstorms, which look like they're going to be packing quite a punch in terms of very heavy rainfall, vivid lightning, and some strong wind gusts over 60 miles per hour in some locations, especially around the Newark area. So please, as always, stay safe out there.